Peter has a question here. My question centers around the point that was made that we need to be very careful about disturbing established wilderness. Near my home, my town owns a large piece of land, 75 acres, that is protected from development because of a historic battle that occurred there during the Revolutionary War. There are beautiful walking trails that have been installed around which are open to the public. The land is not wooded, rather it looks like a piece of farmland that nature is slowly recovering. There are all kinds of grasses, bushes and shrubs, and an odd small tree here and there. A forest is being rebuilt naturally. I see opportunity to speed up the recovery using a carefully planned permaculture design and hope to propose such a plan to my town. That said, I see how arguments could be made to leave it alone to nature. Can you comment on where to draw the line between wilderness to be left untouched and natural areas which could benefit from human intervention? Well, we call that in Australia regeneration, or regen for short. There's a lot of funding and actually it's an industry standard study now. You can take courses in regen. So we do move into farmland that's recovering, and we put in pioneer species. We put in nitrogen fixing pioneers. We look at nature and we see the way nature pioneers, usually with leguminous species first, or weeds, then leguminous species, then understory to the native forest, and the native forest emerges. So we can speed that process up. And I do quite a lot of it here at Zaytuna Farm. I have a large native legume tree here. This is black bean. I have a large nut tree here, which is bunya pine. I have a lot of fast-growing acacias that only live for a few years and then die. They do their pioneering sequence. So you can look at what are the pioneering sequences in your local area and suggest that you can speed that process up. You can work with the natural system. Of course, you can use non-native and you can use non-provincial, in other words, from another part of the country. But a lot of time, the purists that are going to come in, they're not going to take the new nature approach of Fred Pearce, the famous book, New Wild, should I say. New Wild, written by Fred Pearce, has the subtitle Invasive Species, the Saviours of Earth. And there's a whole new science on this now. But if you have purists and they only want local, provincial species, you can look at the local system. You can look at the selection you have of species that naturally pioneer, and the sequence can be speeded up going through to climax species of what you call a natural forest. Of course, they're always evolving. Now, you could even suggest decompacting the soil, restructuring the soil with rip lines on contour. You could even put in swales. That might be a bit contentious. It just depends who you're dealing with and how purist they are. Of course, you're talking about an area that's got a heritage because it's had a battle. That hasn't got a battle, a human battle, hasn't got a lot to do with the natural system. But the way it pioneers is the key. So if you look at what are the fast pioneers, fast growing, short term. What are the medium pioneers, medium speed growing and medium size and medium lifespan? What are the long term pioneers that take longer to grow, larger in size and live for a longer age before they let go to the larger canopy? So you can look at those sequences, and as we go through the course, you see a lot of that. So you need to propose that in a formal and botanically acceptable or ecologically acceptable way. So he said, this is just the natural environment we're using as a model to go through repair to the long-term natural climax system.